What was that? An absolutely wild day of NFL football. We had some huge fantasy games, but of course, we had some horrible fantasy games by some of the biggest names in fantasy football. Let's break it down. These are the players you definitely need to be panicking about right now if you've got them on your fantasy team. And I think we got to lead off with Brian Thomas Jr. I think at this point, we have to strongly consider maybe it's just not going to happen for Brian Thomas Jr. this year. You look at it in this game. Travis Hunter, breakout game today. 8 catches, 101 yards, a touchdown on a team high 14 targets. Say, okay, it was a Travis Hunter game. But how about Parker Washington? 4 catches, 52 yards on 10 targets. Where's Brian Thomas? Oh, there he is. He's 4 guys down. Only 7 targets on 48 Trevor Lawrence attempts today. 3 catches for 31 yards. And to make matters worse, he left that game late with a shoulder injury. Remember, he's had issues with this shoulder already. Dislocated it in college, injured it earlier this offseason. Now, again here, Brian Thomas Jr. just does not look right to me. Something looks off with Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Trevor Lawrence. Because look at this tweet Underdog sent out. In the 16 games with Trevor Lawrence as his full-time QB, he's got 107 targets, 62 catches, 960 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That is not a first or second round fantasy pick. Are we going to see him as a first or second round fantasy pick this year? I don't know. And if Travis Hunter is going to continue to play like this, and look, they didn't even use Travis Hunter on defense. They were like, just go play offense this week. If that's going to be the case with Travis Hunter, this is not good for Brian Thomas Jr. And then speaking of that Jacksonville offense, I think we also have to start getting nervous about Travis Etienne. Only had 3 more carries than Bashaw Tutin today. Again, he looks fine, 5.5 yards per carry, but just hasn't been there for him. This is 3 straight games now with single-digit fantasy points after he was looking like a potential league winner to start the season. I don't want to completely give up on Travis Etienne here, but look, 3 bad games in a row is when you really got to start getting nervous here. And the offense, just what has happened with this offense? It just has not looked the same like it did that first month of the season. Look, I still believe in Liam Cohen. I still believe the Jags can turn it around. But man, Travis Etienne giving off vibes like maybe it was just the first month a heater, and now he's crashing back down to earth. So not full-fledged panicked on Travis Etienne yet, but getting very, very nervous. And I'm going to be honest, I'm at the same point with Saquon Barkley. I don't think we are going to get the Saquon Barkley we drafted, the Saquon Barkley we got last year. I mean, we have 7 games of data now, and we have not seen anything close to that guy. In this game here, 18 carries, 44 yards, 2.4 yards a carry. This is a Vikings defense that for most of the season has been terrible against the run and great against the pass. It kind of flipped today, but the real issue here is this Eagles offensive line is just not opening up holes for Saquon Barkley. There is no running room here for Saquon. He's only run for 60 or more yards twice this entire season. This guy went over 2,000 yards last year without even getting the final game to go even higher. Again, I just don't think what is going to change for Saquon Barkley here. Like, what is going to be different? I know it's Saquon Barkley. I want to believe in the talent here. I want to believe in the bounce back. But from what I've seen so far, I'm having my doubts. I just really don't know if we're going to see anything close to the guy we saw last year. Now, I'm not saying outright bench Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying do something crazy like panic trade him low. Just accept that Saquon Barkley may not be worth the first round pick you spent on him this year. And are we starting to see a committee in Los Angeles here in that game overseas in London? Kyren Williams, 12 carries, 54 yards. Blake Corum, also 12 carries, now only 37 yards. But what was really concerning here is Blake Corum was getting run inside the 5-yard line, near the goal line. Look, the Rams have a bye this week, so, we don't know what's going to necessarily happen, coming out of the bye in week 9 there. But you got to be a little nervous right now if you have Kyren Williams. Like, you're banking on this guy being the workhorse. You're definitely banking on this guy scoring touchdowns. If Blake Corum is going to start taking goal line work, that is very troubling here. Maybe it was just a game. Maybe it was just a plan. Again, we're going to have to see coming out of the bye. I'm not ready to full-fledged panic on Kyren yet, but I'm certainly getting nervous. And real quick before I continue on with the list, if you haven't heard, we crossed 90,000 subscribers. We are on the home stretch for 100K. Help us get there. If you're enjoying the content we're putting out and you have not subscribed yet, take 1 second, hit that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. And then I hate to say it, but I think it's time to start getting nervous about Rome Odunze, another guy. Like the first month of the season looked like he was going to win fantasy leagues, but what have we seen over the last 2 games? Only 4 combined catches, barely over 30 yards in each of those games, and only 11 total targets. I think the big difference here, that the big switch has been not that other pass catchers are getting involved so much, is that coming out of the bye, the Bears somehow figured out how to run the football. The last 2 weeks, they've run the football great. They haven't needed to throw it as much to Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and these wide receivers. So, again, I don't want to full-on panic here. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not benching Rome Odunze yet, but I'm getting very, very nervous. If this happens again next week, yeah, we probably are in full-fledged panic mode. And then, of course, we got to talk injury. I mean, it looked like we were going to get through this week without, like, any big-time major injuries, and then Jaden Daniels, in the second half of the game, I don't want to say the end, but, I mean, they were still trying to come back. They were still in it. Had that, what they're calling a hamstring injury. Didn't seem too serious here, but he also did not return to the game. If you got Jaden Daniels, you got to be a little bit nervous here. Let's hope it's minor. Let's hope he doesn't miss a ton of time. But I'll tell you what, you got to really start getting nervous if you have JCM, aka Bill, as your running back, because the last 2 weeks, since it looked like, okay, this is the breakout, it's going to happen, looks like he's just breaking down. Over the last 2 games, he's had 3.6 yards per carry. Then this week against the Cowboys, under 3 yards per carry, which is crazy because this guy had like one of the best yards per carries in the NFL until he became the guy. I'm starting to worry. Maybe he's just one of those guys who's not meant to handle 15, 20 touches at the NFL level. And it doesn't get any easier for him next week, especially if Jaden Daniels is out on the road against the Chiefs. Yeah, Bill, you looking like a guy. Maybe you had him as a league winner. Now I'm starting to get very, very nervous about Bill here. And it looks like we're just going to have the same old Marvin Harrison this year. Every now and then he's going to have a big game like he did in week 1 and what was it, like week 4 or week 5. And then the rest of the time you're going to wish you hadn't started Marvin Harrison. Even on a day where Jacoby Brissett throws the ball 36 times, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, he gets 2 catches for 58 yards. I mean, at least he had 6 targets. But look, Trey McBride, 13 targets, and that is the issue here. The number 1 wide receiver in this offense is a tight end named Trey McBride. So look, Marvin Harrison, he's going to be volatile. He's going to, every now and then he's going to pop off, and then you're going to be like, okay, I feel good about him again. And then the next week he's going to kill you. That's just what he's going to do. This is a guy I would be looking to sell high if I can. And then I'm not sure what to make of what happened to Xavier Worthy today. He ran over 80% of the routes, which led all the wide receivers, but he only had 3 catches for 35 yards on 4 targets. Obviously, Rashee Rice came in, slotted right back in as the number 1 wide receiver with 10 targets, but running back Brashard Smith with 5, Hollywood Brown also with 4, Juju, Kelsey with 3. I mean, Mahomes just spreading it out here, so I thought Worthy could still be a good play even with Rice back. He was not a good play with Rice back. I'm getting a little nervous for Worthy here, like, hey, maybe he is just going to be second fiddle to Rashee Rice all year. Kind of like Marvin Harrison, he's going to have those games where he's going to pop off. He's got that speed. He's got that big playability, but he's probably also going to be very, very volatile. And then I'm not really sure how to feel about Quentin Johnston right now. I'm like on the fence here. I'm sort of panicking him, and I guess I'm getting nervous because you look at it today, Justin Herbert, 55 pass attempts. Oronde Gadsden had a huge game, 9 targets. Keenan Allen had a huge game, 14 targets. Ladd McConkey had a very good game on 15 targets. And then you see Quentin Johnston, 2 catches for 30 yards on 6 targets. Okay, he scored to kind of save his day, but it felt like he did nothing in this game. And again, 6 targets on 55 attempts. That is a very minuscule target share, but I do want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. Remember, he didn't play last week with that injury. Maybe still working his way back, not 100%. I don't want to full-on panic yet, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't get much easier for the Chargers this week. Short week, got to go play against the Minnesota Vikings, which have been a great pass defense all year. I know A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith just lit them up, so maybe the Chargers can too, but definitely getting nervous about QJ here. Let's see what he does against Minnesota. And then I really thought Alvin Kamara could be a great flex this week, but he was far, far from a great flex. Even with Kendre Miller getting hurt with a knee injury. I mean, okay, he had 11 carries, but only 2.5 yards per carry against this Bears run defense. Maybe this Bears run defense is getting better, but I really thought he could be involved in the passing game. 3 catches for 1 yard. Yeah, look, okay, I fell for it. I thought Alvin Kamara could be good this week. No, he wasn't good. And guess what? He's probably going to be even worse next week because they have to play the Bucs run defense in week 8 with Vita Vea. No thank you on Alvin Kamara next week, even if Kendre Miller is out. And then we had a new interim coach for the Titans, but we had the same old running back split here. Tyjae Spears, 5 carries, 22 yards. Tony Pollard, 6 for 18. Tony Pollard did have 6 catches in this game to kind of save his day. Tyjae Spears had 3, but you can't feel good if you got Tony Pollard splitting like this with Tyjae Spears. I mean, only, 3-4 more touches than Tyjae Spears here. And the offense didn't really look significantly better with Mike McCoy than it did with Brian Callahan. I mean, at least they scored 1 touchdown. I guess there's that. But, yeah, come on. Not feeling good about this situation. Not really feeling good about anything in the Titans situation right now, especially this backfield right here. And then in that wild Giants-Broncos game, we saw J.K. Dobbins not necessarily be great against this Giants defense. I mean, look, he himself was okay, right? 14 carries, 81 yards, 5.8 yards per carry. Had a catch for -1 yards. He was okay, but what's really frustrating, I mean, I know they were in come from behind mode, but even when they got near the goal line, they don't run the ball with Jay. They just throw it. Like, Sean Payton thinks he's got Drew Brees. Now, credit to Bo Nix, led that comeback. You know, it's got a lucky bounce on a touchdown, but look, Bo Nix played great in the fourth quarter. He was horrible prior to that, but this is now J.K. Dobbins after, about 5 games to start the season looking like a great RB2 with low-end RB1 upside. This is 2 straight games where he hasn't really been great here, so not ready to panic on J.K. Dobbins yet. Remember, you drafted this guy like the double-digit rounds of your fantasy drafts. You've gotten pretty good production from him, but you can't feel as good as you did going into this week. So J.K. Dobbins, we'll see how it goes going forward. I doubt they're going to be in many games like this. You got to think the defense is going to keep them in good game script here. So Dobbins on the fence. I'm getting a little nervous here, but not full on panicking just yet. All right, now finally some guys who didn't necessarily have big games today, but I want to let you know you shouldn't be panicking about them. Let's start with Justin Jefferson. It wasn't a horrible game, but yeah, you're watching Jordan Addison going off and you're like, where is Justin Jefferson? Well, remember, Justin Jefferson got shadowed by Quinyon Mitchell today, and he still had a pretty good game. Not to mention Carson Wentz was horrible, and he still had a pretty good game. Justin Jefferson's going to be just fine. And yeah, we probably should have been lower on Ashton Jeanty this week. It was a tough matchup in a game that projected the Chiefs to just blow them out, and the Chiefs absolutely blew them out. But look, now he goes into the bye week. They get the Jags coming out of the bye. It should be better for him in week 9. Not panicking on Ashton Jeanty just because of this down game. And Thursday night was a weird game for DK Metcalf, right? You had Freiermuth 2 touchdowns, Jonnu Smith a touchdown. The Bengals are just terrible against tight ends. But look, DK Metcalf is going to be what DK Metcalf is. He's going to have down games. He's going to have big games. He's going to have mediocre games. He's not one of those stud guys you should count on every single week. Thought he would be better against the Bengals. He wasn't, but no panic here. And I talked a lot about how I was not feeling a good Ted McMillan game this week against the Jets, and he didn't have one. Had to face a lot of Sauce Gardner. Now, I don't think Sauce Gardner shadowed him, and I know Sauce Gardner did leave that game a couple times, banged up there, but still, this was a tough matchup for Ted. Didn't come through, but it was a tough matchup. I wasn't expecting him to, so no panic whatsoever here. And I was this close to putting Breece Hall on the panic part because he's had 2 really bad games in a row since becoming the guy, and this Jets offense, I mean, you should be panicking about this Jets offense right now, no doubt about it. But then I looked, and he gets the Bengals next week, so gonna give him a pass because it's the Bengals next week. But look, if he flops again next week against the Bengals, yeah, we are in full-fledged panic mode. And then finally, Jalen Waddle, look, I don't know, maybe it was the weather. Maybe the weather was more than we thought. It didn't seem too bad for the parts of the game I watched. I just think Tua was really, really bad in this game. And that is a great Browns defense. So, yeah, maybe we should have been a little more cautious with Jalen Waddle in that game. But I'm not going to panic long term here. This guy's been mostly good in the games that Tyreek Hill hasn't played. I think that will continue. All right, there you go. Those are players you probably should be panicking on if you got them on your fantasy team, but also make sure you stay tuned to Fantasy Endgame all week long for the content you need to win. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, take 1 second, do it right now.